Asteroid of fear.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. We're going to freestyle it today, or as Kevin and Alan would say on Fridays, it's Freestyle Friday, although I'm going to drop this on Saturday. But we're just going to have a little conversation today. And yeah, I've got a lot of things I've been wanting to say. I've had a lot of time to think. And so this is where I'm going to say them. It's kind of a little personal update. You guys can keep up with me versus the guests. But yeah, it's a little weird hopping back behind the mic. Um, haven't done any podcasts, had any guest spots in about a week. I canceled a lot of actually all of my guests and host spots this week because I have been busy, but we'll get into that. But first off, I do want to thank the people out there who I did have to reschedule with, who were very kind, had very nice words to say. So I highly appreciate that. I apologize for any inconvenience um, as we put these things together, but hey, life happens and it'll happen to all of us. And, all I can do is hope to extend the same grace to someone else who, when life happens and something like this has to be done and things have to be rescheduled. So, yeah. And also want to thank all of you guys for taking your time out, sharing it with me. Time is our precious asset. We do not get more of it. We don't know when it ends, you know, like having a bank account that you don't know when it's going to run out. So you got to spend it wisely and on things that matter. And so I appreciate you guys tuning in week after week, or if this is your first time, welcome. So, yeah, thank you. All right, we're going to talk about the past 3 weeks of my life, maybe a little bit before, but essentially it started about 7:30, meaning July 30th. And yeah, we were on vacation, family vacation, my wife, my daughter, my niece, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. We do Disney and stuff together, as my niece and daughter are a year apart. So yeah, we were at the beach hanging out. Things were well. My father has been wanting to have knee surgery as he's had this problematic knee for a long time. And, he was worried about it and kind of giving me all this stuff like, hey, here's the life insurance policies type stuff. Here's bank account information. Here's how much is in there, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, hey, this is knee surgery. It's routine. Things are going to be fine. And, coming from a medical background, I know that nothing is routine. However, really it was about trying to calm my father's nerves and just kind of reassure him, just as he would me, or we would any loved one who's a little afraid. He's had a lot of surgeries. So yeah, we did South Padre, which we had a lot of fun, and that's where I rode the reverse slingshot. You guys can check that video out online on IG, TikTok, Facebook. But yeah, I haven't done that in a while, and the last time I was up really high was on my 40th birthday in Myrtle Beach, and we were on the big Skywheel thing, and I didn't, I've parachuted out of airplanes before, but for some reason on that 40th birthday, um, I was super nervous, felt super uncomfortable. I didn't want the kids like bending over to even pick up a penny because it was rocking and they thought it was funny. So of course they were going to do it. But I was like, hey man, is it like you get older and your desire for self-preservation gets a little more in tune and your brain is trying to protect your body and saying, hey, going up this high in a glass little box is not probably the smartest thing. And so, yeah, but we're riding the go-karts, doing tandems with my daughter and my brother-in-law and niece. there in the car in front of us, and we keep going down this hill, and I'm like, I want to feel alive. I want to do something that scares me a little bit. And, it kind of all goes back to that whole thing of you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and scare yourself a little bit that way. Kind of inoculate yourself to outside stressors when it happens for real. And little did I know, like some outside stressors would be coming. But yeah, that's essentially why I did it. And it was fun. It was scary, but it was fun. I got what I wanted out of it. Something I needed also, which was to build a little self-confidence, a little courage, assign that to myself and, you know, understand, hey, I took a step to do something that was scary, acted with courage, and I display the characteristics of that kind of person who's willing to step outside of their comfort zone in order to gain something from the experience, that is. So yeah, we do that and we decide to go to Corpus because my daughter and in-laws and niece and stuff, they're Selena fans. Um, so they wanted to go to the museum and we hung out there. And as we're leaving Corpus the next morning, we're checking out, literally walking down stairs with luggage. Grab a drink here. And I'll hit the vape. A little bad habit here, but we're going solo. We're not with anyone. But anywho, we're walking down. My dad was set to have surgery on 7:30. This is the first or second, something like that. And my aunt calls and, says my dad was unresponsive all night. They're intubating him and transferring him to a hospital that's like 45 minutes from where we live. And so you can imagine getting limited information from a non-medical person, but my aunt is very smart, very put together, very sharp, very she is not a look like a 70 something year old. She's very fit. But the point is that okay, we have, like a 4 hour drive to the in-laws. We need to drop them off. And now all I can think, even though we were supposed to stay 3 or 4 more days, is, I need to get back because my dad's intubated. I don't really know the story. He's going to ICU. And we make it home. He makes it to ICU all within the course of a day. So I drive about 7, 8 hours, stay up all night because I couldn't sleep, because coming from the medical profession, I understand that if you go in for knee surgery and you end up intubated in the ICU, then something has gone wrong. So I'll just put that out there. And I'm not going to overly discuss too much because I don't know what's going to happen from here. But, my job will be to uh, get all the medical records from all these events and go through them and check out the facts as documented compared to the facts of what we can piece together of what actually happened and where it went awry and how it went wrong and who wasn't doing what they were supposed to. Um, because, I need to figure that out. I know my way through a medical chart and I'm going to look into it and, you'll understand why. But yeah, I need to, you know, and it's going to go along with something I'm going to say later in that, some people you have to point out the error of their ways because they're not willing to see them for themselves, come to a conclusion, and offer an appropriate response, which would just be an apology and some ownership of, hey, um, we fucked up or I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. But I digress. Anyway, so yeah, I don't get any sleep. The next morning, I get up, I drive 45 minutes, go visit him in the ICU. He's intubated, and nobody really knows what's going on. Um, it's hard, there's limited information, but, really at that point in time, I'm not uh, really concerned about what's going on. When anything that's overwhelming, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? When I get a bunch of information, and I've said this before, one of my strong suits is kind of uh, breaking it down to the basics. You go back to basics, or you tune out the noise. And in these kinds of situations, there's a lot of noise. And so, goal one is figure out where my dad is in terms of, is he going to get excavated, or, where they take the tube out and he's no longer having to be breathed for, or what's going to happen? Or is it worse? And do they know what led to it? But, you know, I can't remember if he was intubated for a day or it was 4 or 5 hours after I got there. They finally took the tube out. But then he was still out of it from, one, being under anesthesia from the hospital itself, which I think was a block, and some local anesthesia, so not fully under. And then, but, being intubated, they gave him the milk of amnesia or the Michael Jackson juice and propofol. That's what they had hanging. So he was still drowsy and incoherent coming out for days, and he has Parkinson's, and he doesn't remember things well, and he has seizures. So, yeah, there's all kinds of contributing factors. But, essentially, he was found unresponsive, or somebody didn't check on him. Somebody didn't do their job because, if you have to take vitals every 3 or 4 hours, then, um, and you have bed monitors, and the fact he has seizures, all these things put together, he should have been a fall risk, especially having had knee surgery. He should have been being checked on. He should have had a bed alarm. Supposedly he fell. I wasn't there. I think my uncle was, but I haven't got the full story of that. And of course, I haven't read the chart. It should be documented. Um, or he was found unresponsive, or was unresponsive all night, or some of the stories I got. Therefore, he was going to be intubated and moved. Um, and yeah, so it was like, well, did he aspirate? Did he, what happened? Did he have a seizure? Did he roll out of the bed? Um, all these questions that I'll eventually get answers to. But so I was more concerned about him getting well. He eventually got untubed. He slowly, once, the medicines kind of started, because some, they either don't have them all, the list is inconsistent. There's always something, and then somebody else is led to manage the meds, and it gets off cycle. If he hasn't had these things in a couple of days, and then that gets all wonky, and then it's harder to get him back aligned, where his brain, mind, memory, all these things are functioning. He can be coherent and whatnot. But so there was several days of 45-minute drives there, 45 minutes back, which was, nice. I got to listen to podcasts, think about things, and, you know, he eventually was transferred to a rehab where, once he was better, from whatever was ailing him and caused him to be intubated, he was transferred to a rehab for the knee, where he spent maybe 10 days there or so, and got out this past Sunday. So I picked him up and I spent a few nights there to make sure he wouldn't fall. I have to give him daily injections. There's a few things on my plate, running around to the VA, trying to get these meds that he needs, because he can't miss, these Lovenox injections that keep you from clotting post surgery. And um, that was a challenge because, he normally gets it from the VA, but typically they have to mail it, but sometimes they keep stuff on hand. But it was written by a different doctor, so getting his doctor at the VA to write that and taken care of, um, was challenging. And also, they had it at Walmart, but it was in a different dose. So, there was this whole thing of having to get, because they couldn't order that, um, it wasn't available. And so the order had to be written different. So there was two challenges presented there. And I knew I was either going to have to do cash pay or get them for free, however I could, because um, it was imperative that he gets these, that he didn't skip a day, according to home health nurse. So Yeah. But, at the end of the day, I was reminded by a good friend of mine, which we'll get into, that, you know, not only did I get it one, I got both of them. I ended up getting the free medication. So, um, it worked out. And I think part of that why we'll just go with it now. I mean, that whole day was spent. I spent hours at the VA waiting, talking to different people, trying to get this medicine, and everybody told me they'd call me back. And meanwhile, I'm doing this, and one of my good friends, we've been friends for 41 years. He came to visit. He had a week off, and so we thought we'd just hang out. And um, so yeah, I was waiting for him, and they told me, hey, they'll call me after about 3 hours there. And so I was like, well, I'll go eat, wait at home, wait for my buddy to show up, and you know, and then of course, Walmart's like, we got it. The VA hadn't called. They're still calling, asking for questions, and you know, this doctor's nurse was out. There was all kinds of problems. They were shorthanded. So I managed to drive away from a Walmart pharmacy and getting the doctor. It's getting towards the end of the day. All the pharmacies close within an hour, hour and a half. And I'm trying to get this, and we're trying to get this doctor to call in the order because Walmart cannot get it, and it has to be written different according to the size vials or dispensers that they have. And so working on that, and I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go to the VA anyway. There's like 45 minutes left before the pharmacy closes, and I'm going to go see if I can get this, and I'm going to drop this other note off and see if that will help facilitate and get the doctor to write this and get it done. And, I could have chosen not to because, I talked to the other nurse and doctor, and they were going to take care of it. And I was told it would be done in an hour, and I could go to Walmart and pay for the medication. But, you know, why not get it for free if you can? And at the original dose, because that's what the VA had. So yeah, I'm like, screw it. We'll just go. We ain't got nothing to do. And I go and I'm handing off this note, and this guy, he seems rather irritated that I'm handing him one more thing to do, which is his job. This is what you get paid to do. You could do it with a smile and not be an a-hole. But anywho, yeah, as he's walking away, I look over to the left, and I see these monitors that, because you take tickets, you check in and you take a ticket, and they announce like now serving ticket A 1946. That was my number. And I noticed towards the end of the visit, they have a board that puts it up because obviously you could have hearing impaired people. And I just happened to look at that board, and I saw my dad's name, and I'm like, holy shit, like this has got to be 3 hours old. Why is his name still up there? And right above it, it said prescriptions ready for. And so I go over to the pharmacy, and lo and behold, they have the prescription ready, right dose, everything. The girl at the pharmacy counter was nice, easy on the eyes, nice smile, friendly, which helped because the last interaction I had with the doofus over at the counter, he was not as pleasant, but I didn't let that get me down. And, you know, we get that, and we're able to uh, get home health over to give the injection and show me how to give them the following days. But, and then Walmart calls, and hey, we have the medicine. It's written as directed. It's ready to be dispensed, et cetera, et cetera. And it was funny because, I spent all day running, and I was really tired, mentally exhausted because I started early in the morning and dealing with phone calls and doctors and home health. And, it's taxing mentally. Um, and my wife was kind of giving me a hard time, like, oh, it must be so tough doing this all day or whatever. And it was funny. And my buddy was like, hey, you know, really, he went above and beyond. Not only did he get, the medication for free in the right dosage from the VA, he also had it ready to go in case that one came out, and it's ready. So he actually did it twice. He procured, he went above and beyond. And, that's just me kind of doing what I do is I'm, if it's got to happen, I'm going to make sure that it's going to happen. How you do anything is how you do everything. I don't think I intentionally set out, but this is just how my mind works, my brain works, my mindset. So, you know, but I kept my vibrations high. I was in a good mood because I knew it was going to be a marathon of a day. So remember that when you have stuff to do. But, it kind of leads me into this, he's finally back home. I'm helping take care of him, but I've been interviewing these roles, these people who've been giving advice on caregiving and that we're all going to be these caregivers at one point in time in our life, even if we're not the main touch point, even if we're the secondary. And, you know, perhaps all this information was to give me some context because this is what happened to me. I mean, this happened, and I didn't do it alone. There was other family involved, my dad's sister, my wife going to visit, a good friend who's kind of like a family member from Florida flew in. So my mother went and visited my father. So yeah, there was quite a few people, people from his neighborhood who check his mail and whatnot. Um, Everybody chipped in. There was a lot of support. And if you go back and you listen to those conversations, a lot of it is about support because the caregiver will give out before the person receiving the care because it is taxing and then you're trying to maintain life around it. And in this 3 weeks, not only am I on vacation, I'm spending time with my wife and daughter. Um, my wife's birthday happens. Uh, the first day of school starts. All these different things happen and you're trying to juggle this and that, the other. And, some people have jobs. I'm doing some Ubering, um, earning some money, paying for group coaching. So without AC, I mind you, using a little fan, but it's a whole other story. It's my desire and willingness to achieve what I want is I'm willing to Uber Eats with no AC in the car. Yeah. Um, but, doing all that, and some people have jobs, and luckily for me, podcasting and Ubering are very flexible, and I could reschedule podcast interviews. And again, thank you for those who were understanding during this time. Um, but it allows me to dedicate my time to things that are important to me, my family, my father, um, and be that caretaker because, nobody's going to take care of your kids, your parents, your family members like you will. But, it was during this time that there were ups and downs and all kinds of emotions, initially when it happens. And I thought and I can only say this now, because we're on the other end, on the positive side. But, I thought he was gonna die and I was never gonna see him again. And that's kind of what led to that one post of, hey, you're going to have a last conversation and interaction with everyone in your life. So make them count, and, when you drive for 7 hours and this is the information you have, you get a lot of thoughts and you're like, what's important? Well, you know, was our last interaction good? The last time we hung out, the last conversation, have I said all the things I wanted to say? Did I tell him I love him? Did I give him a hug? Um, and part of what I learned too is, sometimes it's breaking everything down to each interaction. Each time you walk away from a conversation with a person or an interaction with a person, be it a family member or a stranger, like, was it good? Did I leave it the way I wanted? Did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? Maybe, in terms of making them feel valued, valuable for sharing their time with me, because things could change in an instant. I've spoken about this from working in the emergency room, and other ones is it's never you until it's you. When these things happen to you, it puts it into perspective quite a bit. But it, you know, yeah, you reevaluate everything and you wipe. It's like clearing a table, like knocking everything off and going, okay, I'm only going to put back what's important. And then you add it slowly. And there's a few times like I feel like I had to start over in this process. because you're almost going through a grieving process because you don't know what's going on. You don't know if that was the last time until they take the tube out and progress starts happening. So, yeah, I cried 3 times that week. It was rough. It was very much like I feel overwhelmed. I can't do this alone. Um, Definitely not capable, praying to God, pleading like, hey, I would give up everything. The podcast, I'd give up everything just if my dad were okay, my daughter's okay, my wife's okay, they have everything they need. I'd go back to corporate. If that's what you want me to do, then that's my best place to serve, then I'll go. So that's how important it was for me. Um, but you stop, you listen. I don't think that's what God would want me to do. I had this idea of like, hey, you know, if that were the last time I had spoken to my father, would I continue the podcast? Probably, because I would believe that he would want me to do so and see me succeed with it, kind of like doing it for him watching over me. Also, in terms of my daughter, um, she was also an inspiration for me doing the podcast. And if I gave that up, what am I showing her? If your actions are what versus what you tell your kids and they see and absorb what you do versus what you say, then giving up on that is, yeah, setting a shitty example. And so, no, I'm not going to. And, you know, but yeah, I was willing. But that should tell you right there what's important: your family, your friends, um, those you have relationships with, those you share time with. And you start adding things back slowly. And that's, you know, I've had some workouts that were okay. Nothing great, but I'm keeping some movement in. Um, but yeah, and then slowly gonna get back to building and, you know, well, yeah, let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about Ubering, an experience there. And we're gonna talk about my wife's birthday a little bit. So for my wife's birthday, I stepped out of the box. I'm usually not a very celebratory type person. Um, I'm usually like just buy yourself whatever you want with holidays, with everything. And I don't know if I'm sure I've told some people I'm actually excited for Christmas this year, like the festivities, not necessarily like gifts or whatever, but just the time, the festivities, the spirit, if you will. Feels weird to be excited about it. Feels a little scary. Like, oh no, I'm finally getting it. Hopefully, I get to stick around and see it. But yeah, I stepped out of the box and got my mom to pick up my daughter from school. And, we were going to have massages, which we did. And I just told her, hey, be, you know, we're going to go home, shower, get ready, and then I'm taking you somewhere. And it was funny because she kept asking, like, um, well, did you notify this person? Did you notify this person? People like she usually has lunch or dinner with on her birthday. Um, and I was like, no. And I'm like, I finally had to tell her, look, I'm taking you out of town. But it was interesting because it's kind of one of these things of all these people. I'm like, hey, you're my wife. I don't need anyone's permission to take you out. And it was even interesting was like when I asked my mother to pick up my daughter, because I said, hey, I got these plans. I want to do that. And, we don't normally do these things. It's been about 12 years. And my mom's like, well, is that her ideal birthday? Is that what she likes to do? And I'm like, you don't worry about it. Like, she's my wife. I've been with her for 18 years. I know what she likes. Thank you. I'm not asking for advice here, but yeah, so
Yo, word up. This is Ethan from the Nonchalant Perfectionist podcast. I'm so glad you tuned in here, man. Did you, hold on, just real quick. Did you know that this podcast, as well as my own, are part of a much larger world called the Podcast Connection Network? Yeah. Yeah, we have some pretty amazing shows hosted by even more amazing souls. And look, we're just waiting to be discovered. You curious? Yeah, I know you are. Head over to the link in the description below. Trust me, you won't be disappointed.
we did that. We ended up going to Fort Worth. So I started off the evening with, I finally just had to say, look, we're going out of town. I'm taking you to Fort Worth. I won't give you any more information after that. And but then of course I wore headphones, listened to a podcast and whatnot because she couldn't know the directions. It'd give away the first place we were going, which we went to the Rim, which is a restaurant, and it was delicious. The vibe was super cool. My friend who come down, he was the one who actually recommended it as he worked down the road from it. But super cool vibe. Highly recommend. Food off the chain. Just wow. I had appetizers, you know, it was kind of one of those dilemmas. We were going to be doing something after, plus we had a 2 hour ride to and change. So we couldn't keep food. So it's like, well, but you still want to enjoy the food, even though you can't take it all with you. And if I had any leftover food, that's why. But it was all delicious. I had meatballs with burrata and bread, and then buffalo jumbo shrimp. Um, as my meal. And my wife had the Flintstone, which is a 2 pound beef rib that was just to die for. Fork tender, amazing flavor. And then we had the skillet cornbread, it was super bomb as well. And I feel like we had a few other things, but I know we took bread pudding, which was fantabulous. We had some of that before it even left the table in the to-go box because it was just that good, even though we were stuffed. And I think, yeah, I had some like for 2 days because it was pretty meaty, pretty substantial, very good. But I think one of the biggest parts of it also was just the vibe, the people, the waitress Tracy, the chef Jay Souders on IG and Threads for sure. The host, don't remember his name, but great guy. He loved my shoes. And yeah, they were just awesome. Great, great energy, great at their job, cool, uh, super genuine in two terms of ensuring that we had a good time because it was my wife's birthday. And then I handed him a podcast sticker, told him each had a podcast. And thanks, Jay, for um, the follow and whatnot. And yeah, I posted and shouted that out because, it was really about the energy in them as people. And, this is what they do for a living and, chefing and waitressing and stuff. If you take it seriously, it's one of these things where you're serving and making other people happy. And you kind of get immediate feedback if you did a good job. And your aim is always to please. And they did it well. So they were very cool and high energy exchange, made for a great evening. We headed on over to Whole Foods and walked around, and then we ended up going to downtown Hyenas in Fort Worth and saw Uncle Laser. I do not remember the two openers. One guy with a cowboy hat, another guy, I remember his 49.99 love candle thing. If you're listening or if you heard it, you know who he is. But awesome show, great show. We were like right at the stage. Even the MC or host was great. Cool couple sitting next to us, but a lot of fun. Interacted with a few of the comedians. You know, it was nothing too crazy. I know my wife was more concerned about being interacted with, especially since it was her birthday, but we didn't let that cat out of the bag. And then, of course, it was super cool to, grab a shirt with a signature and some stickers and also grab a pic with Uncle Laser. And, we were the last people in line and they just happened to shut down the lights because they were getting ready for the next show wherever you took pics, so we headed on over to the stage and got a pic. So that was really cool. Really fun refrigerator worthy pic. Thanks to the comic who took that. Um, yeah, high energy exchange, great show. Laughed my face off. My cheeks were hurting. Uh, just had a great time. I hope my wife, hope you had fun, babe. It was a step outside the box of we hadn't seen a comedy show since Sebastian Maniscalco in Austin. So yeah, you know, I hope she had fun. I had a great time and had a great time kind of doing that for her and just, remembering hey, after 18 years and we can still go out and have fun. And we did. We if we'd stayed local, we would have went out to eat and it would have been okay. But and maybe went and saw Twisters, but this was way better. Way better. But that brings me to kind of Ubering. And I'm back at it, enjoying it, trying to earn some money for business coaching, um, and my group coaching, which I do. And so, like I said, I've been delivering without AC, which sucks. And my Whoop band shows you how the heat adds strain to your body because even with, maybe some trips up to the second floor with cases of water and dog food in the heat, having no AC when it's 106 out. Yeah, it's taxing. And it made me realize, hey, old people can really, um, or even older, kind of healthy people, if you don't hydrate right, if you don't recover right, then yeah, you could really do yourself a disservice. I mean, I noticed how little I was peeing because as an Uber person who drinks a lot of water, I know all the best bathrooms in town. But yeah, what really stuck out was I had this really bad interaction, sort of as the delivery driver. And, this is for everyone. Help me to help you. Look, I love Ubering because I love the service component of it. I love making your life easier doing something you don't want to do, especially it's hot outside. Um, I'm not complaining if I accept the amount that was offered to go do this job, then I'm not complaining about it. I'm not complaining about the tip. You give as you see fit, whatever you think is valuable. But I'm going to complain about the energy because I think that's where it's at. Is it boils down to exchanging of energy. And this one particular exchange was horrible. I got zero out of it. It took way much too much from me. How about that? Too much. Too much. And you have to protect your energy for sure. And that was something I learned. And okay, so I do shop and pay. That's where you're like, Richard, I need a case of water, 12 pack of soda, a few other items from Target. I'm going to go to Target, navigate that parking lot, that whole thing on a Saturday, and go get you your stuff, pay for it, deliver it to you. Well, when you do stuff like that, you have to put like suitable substitutions in case they don't have it. Well, they didn't have this brand of water. They had shit for water, their brand and like Dasani. And so I go to the substitutions and I click on it, scan the item, and it sends it over to you, the customer, whoever that is, and it puts it in a queue for you to review and say, okay, that's suitable for substitution. Go ahead and go get it. So my protocol when I do that, I send it over and I send a text through the Uber app. So you're aware. I can see if it's delivered, read, this and that. When it doesn't happen after, let's say 2 or 3 minutes, I'll call. Nothing. No answer. I call again, leave a voicemail. Hey, you have cold stuff. This is the last thing I need approval on before I can check out. Nothing happens, so I call Uber, get on with tech support, and you can kind of override it and they'll take the hit and it can be documented. And so they just said override it. And I did check out and I kind of see where it's going. And I'm like, tell my wife, I go $10. I'm going to a place that requires a code and there's no code. What does this matter? Well, because they've already proved to me that my time and what I'm doing for them is not valuable to them because they haven't answered the calls, they haven't read the texts. Um, you know, for those of you who know me, if I call, it's because I need something more immediate because I really don't call. So if I call, pick up. And so I know it's going to be a problem. Well, it sends me to this other place, and I'm like, it's kind of like a retirement community or maybe like a skilled nursing, and unload the water and get everything in there. And they're like, well, we don't have that room. We don't have this person. So I load it all back to the car, case of water, no AC. It's hot. And um and all the while, like they're trying to assign me another order because I'm close to the pet supplies place. And I'm trying to like dodge that, trying to call support because I called these people, text them again, hey, where are you? Because it sent me here. This is not the right place. So I'm on the phone with Uber and they finally call and we end up in this three-way call and it's of course a hot mess and um, you know, yeah. Besides the point, I felt like I was the only English speaker on the call. But they're like, okay, we're here. And I'm like, okay, it's next to the door, navigate through this parking lot in an interesting way. And of course, I know I'm going to need a code and, um, you know, trying to go in a three-way with, sounding like you're talking to someone overseas and get them to open the gate and finally get all that done. I take all their shit to the second floor and I'm waiting there. It's hot, and it's like when they answer the door, it looks like they just got out of the shower or something. Maybe that's why they didn't answer, whatever, I don't know. Whatever. You got your stuff. That's fine. Lesson learned. Bad experience. Wipe your hands of it. Go away. But, it wasn't until later, I'm going my last delivery. I'm picking up lows, 2 buckets, very easy, but way out closer to my house in a rural area. And I'm like, I'm gonna go home after this because it's close and I'm done. And I get there and I'm at a gated community, no gate code. I text the person, I call the person, I go to the keypad at a gated community. I find his name manually through all the names, call him from there, nothing. By the grace of God, somebody behind me opens the gate. I'm able to go in. I go there, drop the thing, get back in my car, delivery complete, going to turn off the thing, turn off the app so I don't get any more deliveries. See a little notification, like usually that you got a tip. Um, Click on that. Oh, you received $1 tip for your target. I'm like, oh, wow. From that order, the disaster of an order, the inconsiderate people. And which is just kind of like a spit in the face a little bit, like and because it's like, well, really? Why even tip? I'd have rather had like my apologies for not answering any of your calls, not receiving the text, not doing this, and just being a shitty human being. Um, that would have sufficed. But so the dollar was kind of like a, little fuck you from them. But anywho, when I scroll down and I go, it tells me that this whole transaction took 59 minutes. Then I got kind of like pissed. I was like, man, that's 59 minutes of my life I can't get back. It's 59 minutes of, that's where I realized like my energy that you sucked out of me and almost continue to do so as I see this, as I see that it's happened. But, I'm getting it out there once and for all. This is no longer impacting my energy. Um, but yeah, and that's what irritated me, and that's kind of what was driven home to me. And, I went and was telling my wife this whole thing, and then I did some shopping, had some CVS coupons I needed to use, and then grabbed myself a burger because I was hot and sweaty. And just wanted to shower and relax. And yeah, it was kind of like this ending in a way, although it really wasn't because this was kind of before my dad got discharged. So it's still like in the middle of it, but it was in this place that I actually consciously asked myself, like these past several weeks, like, okay, what's the lesson here? What am I supposed to be learning? Um, and at that one little piece was like, protect your energy. Like I said, I mean, I've had better paying jobs, I've had less paying jobs. I've had more fulfilling jobs, and sometimes those were associated with the less paying jobs. Um, but you hear stories after stories, and I've interviewed some of these people who left, like Alan Lazarus of NLU, who left a high paying job to do something he wasn't certain of. He was probably a little certain, but um, that's because he's aware of his skills. But he was able to, you know, seek out more fulfillment. And so, why do I do Uber? Definitely not for the money. It's the flexibility. It offers some cash. It's fulfilling to me because I get to help people, like I said. Uh, but this whole it wasn't about the $7. I accepted that. I said I would do it for that. So it wasn't about the money, but it was about the shitty energy, the inconsideration, the other people just participating in a lower vibrational level than the rest of the world. Um, it was kind of this sense of entitlement, which is one of the things I hate the most. And it should go to show you that, entitlement is not just rich people or people with money. And maybe they had money, but it was a second floor apartment. I mean, they had some money enough to live there. And these days, with inflation and the way apartment rents are, but you know what I'm saying? This wasn't to a mansion. I've delivered to mansions too, and um, but it's not about what you have. It's how do you treat people, regardless of, are you entitled and do you treat them like shit and nobody else's time matters but yours, even though we're kind of sharing this energy together. I'm doing something for you. I'm giving you a piece of my time, even though it's paid for, but you're entrusting, especially if you know me, you know who I am, you've listened to the podcast, you would know that whatever I do, I'm going to do it to the best. I'm going to make sure your food gets there hot, cold, whatever it needs to be, your groceries, I'm going to do my best. So, we're exchanging these things, and all I can ask is help me to help you. Like, just be a little, if you have a gate code, put in the gate code. If you know you have shop and pay coming, be by your phone in case the driver needs you. A delivery I had before, dogs seemed nice, but as soon as I handed off the package, then they got all weird, and it was not safe. If you have big dogs, put them up if you know you have an Uber driver coming. I mean, it's just small things of consideration, which shouldn't have to be pretty fucking please do your job, what you're supposed to do, what you get paid to do. Have a little respect and a little consideration for the other people you share the world with. I mean, come on, you know? And I would say that one of the other reasons it was so noticeable, if you saw me looking down, I'm looking at notes. Um, it was so noticeable was because this was the day after I took my wife out to the Rim and Uncle Laser, and everybody was on point, and everybody was nice, and everybody's energy was good, and everybody was there to serve. And you see what the world is capable of and what an experience is capable of being and possibility when you have great energy. And then to get the whole opposite 180 into the spectrum, um, with somebody ordering a case of water and a 12 pack of soda and three other drinks. How shitty an experience that can be. even though you're getting paid for it. So, yeah, protect your energy. Um, and if you're that person who's inconsiderate and entitled, now you have an understanding of how it impacts people. Take note, change, be better. You can. I say go out and be the person you want to meet. Unless you want a dose of your own medicine, then maybe tighten up, be a little bit better person. But yeah, during this whole time with kind of having to clear the table, like I said, and get back to basics, it's like what's important? Friends, family, um, having my buddy come down, and just hang out and spend time. That was great. And, I said I struggle sometimes, like, hey, I'm willing to give up everything, podcast included, for my family to be okay. And I would. That's what God or the universe wants. And then I ask again, and we'll be like, hey, um, especially since I haven't been on the mic, I haven't interviewed anyone in a while. I feel nervous. I feel rusty. So it's like, ooh, do I want to go back to doing it? It feels almost like something I used to do. And I ask, hey, God, is this something I should be doing? And I got a message, and it's funny was, I asked that question and I get a little response or a like on social media of somebody I went to high school with who's like, hey, I've listened to every episode, and it's cool to see the progression of kind of where you started, the content, and where you're at and how it's evolved. And I was like, well, thank you. Like, that's one of the things I'm most proud of is the progression. The progression, having the courage to start it, knowing it's not going to be good, and being self-conscious and not being able to be as vulnerable as you want. And then to where I'm at now, and I'm more comfortable, just like after getting going, a little more comfortable speaking, not as nervous, way more open, way more vulnerable, because, in order to be the person I want to be, um, those are the qualities I need to have in order to get the most out of an experience, whether it's group coaching, one-on-one coaching, um, interactions with listeners, interactions with interviewers, or guests that I'm hosting. That's one of the things that I have to do. But, you know, hearing that and having somebody else see that was like, wow. Um, and I wrote back, like, I'm excited for what's to come and the possibility of the future, what's to come. And he's like, I'm excited to see what's to come. And I'm like, well, there's your answer. You're going to keep podcasting, you know, because he's a truck driver. Shout out Evan. Um, Gives him something to do. And I appreciate it's interesting to, you know, because this was a small town, and yeah, we knew each other from kindergarten, and I can remember him coming through the clinic when I managed the clinic. And yeah, it's just interesting and because I haven't really Facebook my entire life until I started the podcast, like catching up with others and seeing what they do now and versus what we all thought we were going to be when we were kids and whatnot. But yeah. So thanks, Evan, for that. I appreciate the compliment, um, the kind words, the encouragement, and it does a lot for me. Even though I don't, I think I can validate myself and don't really look too externally, but when you serve people, external validation matters a little bit. When you're wanting to put out good content, valuable content, you want to know that the audience is receiving value, whether it be from the guest or one of these individual conversations. But yeah, this whole experience is, you know, I call it, I've been trying to slow down time. Things keep happening, they're going to keep happening, but, slow and manipulate time, slow it down, meaning by putting your attention to the few things that matter most. And through this experience and kind of having to insert things and build things back up because overall it was kind of a very traumatic experience and it's all going to happen to all of us at some point in time. So, you know, what did I learn is protect your energy. Um, put in the time now, get those skills, develop that resilience now, get things on autopilot, take care of the uncomfortable conversations, whether they be um, living wills, advance directives, um, people knowing what's to happen financially, what your last wishes are, all these different things. So you're better prepared because life will continue to go on even while you're doing this. And, you know, much respect to people who are full-time caregivers and have um, much more difficult jobs in terms of they have to be there and they don't have the flexibility that my wife and I do. You know, I know it can be difficult, and I know there's a lot of parents and kids who take care of elders and whatnot that go through this. And, my hat's off to you. Keep doing it. And remember, you can go back and listen to some of the other episodes. There are resources out there. Find them, pour into them. Remember to fill your own cup. And I'm glad kind of, one of my last things we're going to end with is the private accountability group. We have a definite yes on one person, I believe Judah, and I got somebody on the fence. I need another person, another two people who are for sure that want to test it out. But, it's been slow to go and get up off the ground, but I'm actually kind of glad only God and the universe knew that these kinds of things would be happening. And, having that not take off and the way I wanted was actually a blessing because it allowed time to stand still for that little piece so I can focus on the things that I need to focus on. Getting back into podcasting, taking care of my father, and we'll go up with that. But I do need a couple of people. So please reach out. And when it becomes a paid service, $20 a month to start, $5 a week for a call to be part of an accountability group. That's one Starbucks a week. If that's your thing, you can give that up and be part of a group that you can be accountable to. You can express what you need to in terms of how you need to be supported for accountability, possibly get some ideas for things that you're looking to strive. Um, that's the point of a group. And I'm actually going to consider doing it in a two-tiered way, meaning that we might have a private accountability group, but if you feel more comfortable with one-on-one, then it would probably be a little different in cost and cross that bridge when we get there, but not a huge discrepancy. Affordable and realistic. If you're more comfortable with one-on-one, then we could set that up. But yeah, you know, I have my own group that I'm accountable to, and I apologize to that group this week. I was unable to make it, and that was because of everything that was going on and having family here and my best friend and having to, you know, take advantage of that time and spend it. So I get to go back and watch the recording. But yeah, I like to show up for everyone and I'm accountable to them. And so that's what I want to do for you is be your accountability partner. So yeah, don't let that get away from you. It's a great opportunity, and that's the only thing possibly stopping you from reaching your goals is maybe you have the action, but maybe you just need an outside source to be accountable to, a little motivation, somebody to hash something out with, or just express it, somebody who knows the struggle, somebody who has to be accountable to themselves um, and others. So yeah, definitely reach out. I'm ready to get this going full speed ahead. And like I said, $20 a month is probably what it's going to be to start for group, and it won't be much different outside of that for one-on-one, a little more, just because it will require much more from my scheduling point of view. But yeah, I think it'd be great for you. Whoever you are, no matter what it is you want. I don't care if it's you just want to walk 3 times this week and you need somebody to hold you accountable to it, or if you want to launch a podcast. I know a thing or two about that as well. And while I'm not going to walk you through all of that, I'm definitely willing to help. Hopefully you have an idea, but I can definitely help keep you accountable to the steps that are going to keep you consistent and going. Because I can tell you, this is going to be up no matter what. I'm making it happen no matter what. And this is regardless of all the cancellations and things I've had as a result of this. So I actually have an episode in the bank I could have released, but I wanted to release this because I wanted all the listeners to kind of know what's going on, and for all those wanting some accountability, and for people who are just looking to kind of get back to basics and remember about what's important. Whether you're serving people, or maybe whether, next time you order something through Uber, I hope you think of me and think, hey, did I put my code in? Did I put directions in? Am I being mindful of my participation in this dance we call life with each other? But anywho, it's time for me to go out and serve people, get my Uber on. It's a little cooler today. I'm excited, but I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and don't forget to reach out and go out and be the person that you would like to meet. Bye-bye. Peace. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Remember, go out and be the person that you want to meet.
Asteroid of fear.